Welcome to From the Ashes, the Dungeon Crawler Network podcast all about Ashes of Creation by Intrepid Studios. Bear witness to the rebirth of the MMORPG genre from the ashes of an industry that has left the gamers behind. I'm Aggelos, founder of the Dungeon Crawler Network, and we are coming to you live from the Mighty Beard Tavern, and I'm joined by my amazing co-host. We got Stormslord. How are you?
Doing fantastic.
Excellent. And we also got Alpha Soul returning.
Awesome. Great to be here.
Excellent. And the one, the only Crow Jack.
It's a sad, sad day when I have the worst microphone here.
Yes, indeed.
That's a shame.
It's a shame.
All of you in the pre-show, you could tell he was turning green with envy.
I was so upset. Sucks.
As each camera turned on, it's like, hey, you got a new mic.
It's like, you got a new dynamic microphone. You got a new dynamic microphone. Here I am with this old thing.
Yeah, the jealousy was real. It was definitely real. Anyway, we've got an amazing show planned for you guys tonight because first off, we got a little bit of news coming from the Sandal Lord himself, Steven, gracing us from on high with a little bit of updates. And we're also returning finally to our progression discussions and theory crafting after many weeks of being spoiled by news.
We had so much information the past month.
Yes. And then it just dried up completely. We're in a dry season now. Nothing. So, but we got, it'll be fun. Definitely a lot of fun. Before we do that, of course, we got to give a shout out to all of our amazing patrons over at patreon.com/Dungeon Crawler Network, as well as the awesome Twitch subs that joined our shield wall. Yeah. I see
hate you. I love that.
You
and
do.
I hate you. I love it. It's such a good name. Oh my God.
Joining the DCN Shield Wall. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for that, as well as the amazing people who support us over on iTunes by leaving us iTunes reviews. We actually had a new one out there. Best source for AOC news from Prophet Winfrey. Shout out to Prophet Winfrey yet again because they watch us each and every week. As they said, I tune in every week on YouTube and Twitch, just switched to iPhone, so here is my review. Best podcast for AOC news, theory crafting, and just good discussion about the game. I love the fact that you have multiple perspectives and all have valuable input to the discussion. Keep up the good work, and I will be tuning in every week. Thank you so much, Prophet Winfrey. You're amazing. Much appreciated. All right. I guess we just jump right on into the news.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. First off, let's go ahead and talk about this. Steven came to the Discord and gave us an update. This was last week, I think it was?
Last Friday, I believe it says.
Friday. Yes. Okay.
28th. Yeah.
28th. Yeah, right. A little after Christmas time. That makes sense. So, of course, the beta weekend has been pushed back to the 11th of January because, of course, we talked about it last week that the Apocalypse got brought back out of testing and back into the limited testing, so we'll have servers up there. I guess I might as well read this verbatim, I guess.
Yeah, why not?
Glorious Ashes community, I have an update for you, or updates for you. January 11th, beta weekend, we'll be opening the servers for downloading and playing Apocalypse during each weekend starting January 11th. Playtimes will be announced the week preceding the weekend's playtest, so that's helpful. These additional beta sessions allow us to ensure the stability of the systems so that the experience in Apocalypse meets our standards for an official launch expected in February. Castle sieges. I, being Steven, have decided to push the testing of sieges due to the work that is currently being done on the back-end architecture for matchmaking and the game's servers. As soon as I have a definitive date for siege testing, I will announce it to everyone. While I do not like having to delay this testing, and I know neither do you, it is necessary in order to collect the actual data we need, while at the same time providing the experience I feel players deserve. So we will spend January making sure the sieges are ready for showtime. This means that alpha and beta backers for the MMO can expect to see some testing near the end of January. Web accounts. We have been working to resolve the migration issue with accounts for the website. These issues may take until the end of next week to resolve, which honestly I don't think that's even true. We'll get on that.
We'll get into that.
Yeah. We will be extending the December cosmetics to allow players ample time to access these if they cannot currently. Username recovery and password recovery options are being worked on, and we'll send out an email when those are complete. And finally, the forums. The forums will be up and running next week and should contain the previous postings and threads. We have a live stream. The next live stream will be on the 11th of January at 3 p.m. PST, so tune into the twitch.tv/Ashes of Creation. We'll be going over Castle Siege designs, some footage of the first Castle Siege map, and how exactly the systems for this mode will work to better prepare you for battle. All right, let's start at the top here.
There's some neat tidbits in there that we can talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there.
There definitely is. Let's start with the beta weekends first and foremost. We're going back to just beta weekends starting the 11th. It was needed. If any of you guys actually played the testing, it was definitely needed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the servers that were up, the servers that were working were pretty smooth. However, there was instances where duos would be down, and then squads would be down, and then this European server would be down, and then only US West was up. So what was up was okay, but clearly things just couldn't stay up for long. And that's a problem.
Right. And I honestly think they were having issues with the matchmaking server because it felt like you took a long time to get in for how few players it actually had per map.
So I was under the impression, just from feeling that there weren't a lot of people playing the Battle Royale. Steven did give us a figure of the number of accounts that signed in and tried the Battle Royale over the course of that Christmassy kind of testing. Did anyone see that?
No, I didn't see it.
I believe he posted more than 80,000 accounts had tried the Battle Royale over the course of that open testing period.
Well,
Which isn't terrible. I mean, it's not amazing, but that's not concurrent. That's just total the number of people that tried it over the course of that time. So I'm curious. I wonder,
So, what did you guys play? Did you guys play the? Did you go for the solo or for the group queue?
Solo as much as I
I
could.
did both.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did both as well. It was a little bit of everything, to be frank. It's whenever if the guild stuff was up, I shouldn't say guild stuff. If the squads was up, I did it with the guild. If it wasn't, then I did solos, whatever the case may be.
Gotcha. I primarily played solo. I don't think I had to wait more than a minute though, for a match to actually occur. So I honestly didn't experience any issues with the solo queue until things like the the group queue came in, or group queue went down. So all the group players came over into the solo queue. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think the solo queue had that many issues, like you said, until they showed up. The group, however, had some issues.
Absolutely.
I think we were having issues, and I'm seeing some people in our amazing chat talking about retention rate of 80,000 players or more being an issue. Honestly, BR is already kind of as we talked about last week, I know Alpha Soul brought this up. If the BR mode was an actual battleground in the MMO and not just for testing, it probably would be accepted better. Just because, hey, I know it's going to be something in the actual game. This is going away, so it feels to most people like it's a waste, regardless of the validity of that statement, which is not at all valid.
It's not going away anymore.
Yeah, I don't think it's going away at all.
But when one thing is down, if you didn't like doing duos or solos or we had people, I was watching the tester chat, our squad's up, no, it's solo. Well, forget that. I would rather not deal with solo queues. I'd rather play with people I want to play with. It is an MMO after all. Castle,
it was definitely a very rough launch.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, their matchmaking definitely needed some help. It wasn't a true round robin. It was doing something, and it wasn't doing it correctly, whatever it was doing.
Why do you feel that? I'm just curious why you think that.
Just the length of time to pull it together, right? The length of time to 4-minute queue for a group, and even if you have 42 people, should be able to pull a queue a lot faster than that.
Definitely. Well, honestly, with And I know Fortnite's not a great example, and people hate using that. But when I see people do solo duo queues, it's pretty much instantaneous.
Also, the size of their player base, right? They always have games popping nonstop.
True, it's true. But if 87,000 people had tried it, you think we wouldn't be waiting that long for any specific thing?
Well,
Yeah.
80,000 tried it. You got to find out how many tried it per day, right?
True.
Then
Did
you can
they
start
try it for
counting
10
them
minutes and turn it off? Did they only have the 1 day of testing, never touch it again?
No, it's
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
true.
Yeah, 4 minutes is off because if you just do a little math, just for you figure how many people did they put in to the game? Was it 50?
And it's
The
20-minute
lowest I've
match.
seen was 40. So I believe they had a limit of 40.
Yeah, and like Krojack says, it's about 20-minute matches, right? So if you're waiting 4 minutes for it, it's not math.
That means
Yeah.
only
Yeah,
a few
it's-
hundred people playing at a time for that
Yeah.
particular queue.
And
Yeah.
the other issue that I can say right off the bat was probably why they took it down. I don't think they had a way of turning off on the fly when specific queues were down. So people could, if you're not paying attention to Discord, you could be in squad queue, not realizing it's not
Yes.
working, and sit
They
in there
didn't have
for
an
an
option
hour.
to gray it out and be like, you can't click this anymore.
They didn't have that configuration. They had that as hard code. So, yep, that pulled it up. Absolutely.
I remember when solos were down, I hopped in, I clicked queue. 20 minutes? What's going on? And then I looked in our Discord, and they're like, yeah, dude, our solos aren't working right now. It's squad only.
Yep.
Oh, hit squad, and I had a group in 3 minutes.
And there were times where they made it so that if you queued squad, it would automatically put you into the solo queue or vice versa, but that wasn't always the case, and that added to the confusion.
Right. Yeah, queuing for solo and then getting put into a group anyway was a little confusing. Anyway, moving on to castle sieges. Pushing the castle siege back. We're looking at the end of February, I think they said, but the alpha and beta backers for the MMO can expect it near the end of January. So, well,
It's basically a month pushback for the start of testing. They wanted to start testing by the end of December. Now it's start testing by the end of January.
right. And I mean, they did say ahead of time that MMO backers and stuff would have a month of testing prior to everyone else. So if we actually gain access at the end of January, we are seeing a month delay with castle sieges. Jumping down the list a little bit, I want to kind of mention this while we talked about the live stream. I wonder what they're going to show us when it comes to actual castle siege designs.
Oh, you really want to jump? How about the one tiny little tidbit there that says the first castle siege map? The first implying that there's multiple castle siege maps.
Yeah.
Right now, we've got one battle royale map. Are we being told that in Castle Siege, when we get to play that, there's going to be multiple maps, potentially with different layouts and environment layouts?
Remember,
Different castles.
there's 5 castles in the world of Vera to control. Maybe what
That's
they're
very
doing
true.
is just going to give us the instance map of all 5 of those.
Or maybe in this testing period, we're only going to have the one, but it's their future plan to allow you to siege all 5 once the product is done and rolled out completely.
Right. Well, remember, they are trying to keep this because of Steven's love of lore, and I'm a lore hound myself. I fully expect, and this is just theory at this point, but these maps are going to be representative of the layout of the actual map for the MMO.
Yeah.
And not the whole thing, literally just the
Just that
cutout.
section, that segment.
But we're supposed to be going in the past. So this is us seeing the castles in their prime or whatever, but they will actually be, you will have a 1-for-1 translation of where the castles are in Apocalypse and where they are in the MMO.
I wonder, we talked about the thousands of years difference between this setting and then the MMO setting. So right now, like you said, you're going to see those castles physically in their prime. The battlements will be pristine. Everything's going to look gorgeous. By the time we get into them in the MMO, how much disrepair are those castles going to be in? And will we be required to repair them to a degree before they're of use in the MMO era thousands of years later? I'm very curious about that.
I think they will.
That'd be cool. Cool little lore subtle thing in there.
If I remember, and I hope I don't get this quote wrong, but I think I asked this during one of our interviews with Steven a long time ago. But he actually says the first people who are going to be taking over it, it'll be a PvE event because bandits and our
The monsters or things that are there.
monsters, we'll have to reclaim
That's
them.
awesome. Oh, I love that.
So before they become a PvP event, they will be a PvE event first and foremost.
Yeah, because you want to have that experience of attacking the castle, but no one owns it yet. So you have to have something there, and you're right. Allowing you to have bandits or monsters to pre-inhabit it, this run-down castle, this husk of a castle.
Right.
That's awesome.
No, definitely. I'm really excited about that. And I think this live stream is critical because shout out to Michael again. We answered his email last week. He actually has another email, which I should probably bring up. But he said thanks for answering his questions about getting ready for an MMO. But what he said after that was he hopes that in January they focus on making the MMO true again, meaning making it so that we realize an MMO is happening. All of us know an MMO is happening. He's hoping that we push forward and we're seeing more of the MMO testing and less about Apocalypse in January. And if they can show us some of the stuff, showing us that an MMO is still happening, which we know, but showing an actual systems in place, I think that'll be a good breach of the trust that the player base feels like they're not
We're
having.
still going to see a lot of APOC stuff over the next 2 months. But like we talked about in the last podcast, when they can show the map, when they can show the world and the stuff happening in the world, that's when, like you said, it's just going to unload everyone's stress. But we don't know when that world's going to be, or at least enough of the world that they can show off in a piece of footage for a live stream. How close are they to getting enough of the map done? I have no idea. We have no idea. They never said anything about it. That's the key.
They have. Actually, they have. It's something that I've been waiting for. They said that they will reveal Nodes 3 when they are complete with the world. When they have fully designed the world, they will release Nodes 3. And
will they be willing to make content with the world, that world shown when it's not complete? Let's say a big enough segment's complete. Will they make a video showcasing that? I wonder.
That I have no clue.
I wonder.
I fully expect them to do that. No, I really do. I expect them to do, like, remember what they did with Nodes 1, where they showed us and I love that map, that little, what looked like crayon maps that they drew to show the node placement. I honestly think we will see the entire world of Vera and the placement of castles and how nodes will grow. I do. I fully expect that.
And it's funny sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's what Steven alluded to as the reason why they were holding off until the map is complete.
And when it comes to this creation of the MMO, I feel like the world and the map is so important. I mean, making a fighter, making a mage, making a cleric, there's lots to draw from through all the MMOs out there, that the basic designing of those things to get to a testing stage wouldn't be too difficult. And then balancing, tweaking numbers later is easy, but getting that world designed and done and in place, then all the systems in place, the quest text, the nodes, all that stuff, that's hard, and that's going to take probably the most of the development time right now.
Oh, yeah. I can see that. It depends also what they're using for world creation tools. I'm sure Storms could tell us as well. But if they use something like procedural generation to fill out the gaps, so they're not hand placing individual trees and then going in and just hitting the points of interest, that once upon a time you had to place individual trees.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now you can use procedural generation, just be like highlight a whole area and go forest, boom, and then
and a path run through it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm really curious did you guys catch in that in the live stream where they were showing off the MMO? Did you guys catch that Steven said when the MMO testing starts, which they've still adamantly said is,
Q2.
Beginning of Q2, so April. And I think Jeff even had tried to mention that it was going to be like, what's the month before April?
It's March.
There we go.
Most of the time.
I didn't check my head. March.
Yeah. So it sounds like they're, still on track for that. But more importantly, he was like, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's actually going to be in there that you guys are going to be really pleased with. And Jeff was nodding along with it and didn't seem to have that developer, pull back.
The typical Jeff going, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. The Jeff face, basically.
The Jeff face.
He didn't have that on. So,
hey, if they can over deliver on the MMO testing, the initial MMO testing, That'd be super exciting, and that will do so much good for their image and the image of the MMO in general. If they can have a really nice product to start, I mean, it's only a quarter of the map, it's only 20 levels, etc.
Right.
But still, if they can get that, that'd be amazing.
And it's true what you said right there. We're all hyper fans, but regardless of how you look at this, whether there's validity to the statement, their image has been tarnished a bit.
Yep, for sure.
I mean, to the general MMO audience, it's tarnished. If you go to any of the big news websites, whenever an Ashes of Creation story comes out, the comments are just filled with, oh, great, another BR game. Even people like us who go to defend it go, well, no, they're making MMO. Well, say that to the Save the World mode for Fortnite. They were making a different game altogether, and they scrapped.
Yeah, we've talked multiple times how Fortnite left this bad taste in people's mouth.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing what people are afraid of is a repeat.
Right.
Absolutely.
And we don't believe any of that, but we have to convince the people who are not
who are not
hyperfans.
watching every developer live stream and aren't watching the 24-hour live streams and all this kind of stuff.
Right. I mean, if I watched, let's put it in perspective. Whenever I see something from Star Citizen, I don't really watch much of it at all. It's very rare. So when something pops up and then people are, lighting torches, I'm in the mode of, well, I guess I can grab torches too. Everyone else is doing it, and I don't know enough to disagree. And that's how
I don't think the image is beyond repair.
Oh no.
I don't think a widespread portion enough of the MMO community is really aware of the project yet. So I don't think the majority of MMO gamers are aware of the Battle Royale or aware of Ashes of Creation, period. And those that are, I think, will easily circle back and check out the first footages of the MMO testing to get a better feel for it.
I mean, let's be frank here. We're so starved for MMOs, regardless of whether or not it's the worst MMO in history. When it launches, people will still buy it.
There is enough.
They'll try it.
There's enough cynical, longtime veterans who are just hoping for that next fix. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, why do you think Atlas sold as much? Our Bless Online sold even more. I mean, it's just the sad state of the genre we're in. But we believe Ashes will bring that all around. Final 2 bits before we move on to the actual theory crafting. The web accounts and the forums by the end of the week. So this was on the 28th.
So it should be this Friday, Saturday, Sunday, by this weekend, basically.
Because I've noticed, and I do check the website fairly frequently, I'm getting significantly less bad gateway errors. The referrals are still not all in.
Nope.
Not even like 5% of mine are still
close.
in. Forums are still not up.
Yeah, we've had no update since last Friday. It's been almost a week with no update going, hey, we're getting closer, nothing like that. We're just in the dark waiting.
Right. And I mean, even from the side of checking my account to make sure that I have all the stuff that was due me as a Kickstarter, I'm still missing the embers, that you're supposed to get from having whatever package that you have. I still only have the 50 or whatever it is that I earned from level 6 or whatever that I got in the Battle Royale. So
I think they figured that since you can't buy anything right now with the embers, that's like a low priority.
Oh, you can buy something with them.
Oh yeah. Can you get the store items with it right now?
Well, not in the website store, but there is a specific store in Apocalypse that has all those weapons that we, tested out.
Yeah.
There's like a bunch of them there that you can buy in packs and stuff like that.
Oh.
And right now they're pretty overpriced in my opinion, but
yeah, that could be an entire conversation talking about the value of the cosmetics right now. The monetary value.
I think that'll be something we talk about when Apocalypse is out. And actually,
true enough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to judge these figures right now. I mean, they are available right now for purchase with real money at the values they're at. So there is something to discuss there. But yeah, not until this thing comes out completely and they finalize those numbers can we really make a decision on that. However, if they finalize those numbers and then change those numbers, what do they do with the people that spent the money before?
Most companies have done this before. They usually just give them a refund of the difference. between the two.
Okay.
Yeah.
If they're
I
really,
imagine they do that.
If it's close to the date.
Yeah, let's say they decide that the $20 blah 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 is more of a $10 blah blah blah. You're right. They'll probably just refund the difference.
give you the embers back.
Embers.
You'll have them back.
Embers,
yeah. I can
Which
see
for
that.
them as a company is no money loss because it's
No.
just the embers.
It's digital goods anyway. So
Yeah, digital goods, you're right.
right. And I wonder why Fallout 76 only gave like $3 worth. Never mind. If it really didn't cost them anything.
No.
They had to buy the canvas bags. That's why.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hey, so I know I'm just throwing salt out there tonight. Trying to put the MMO development side in perspective for everybody, so you can see what else is going on. All right,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I talked about this before with somebody on Discord. I got into a Discord conversation, a discussion on the Ashes Discord. My mistake, I know. But I basically said, tell me one game company is doing a good job. I said, I'll wait. I'll wait for somebody in this Discord to tell me one game company that's doing a really good job.
Hold on, let me look it up on my phone. Oh.
Time out. There still are game companies that are doing good. A lot of them are going in the crapper. Like, for example, Bethesda used to be way up here for me. They
Yes,
used
exactly.
to be, part of the golden child.
And I
this
was
year,
referring to
they just-
the big ones, the EAs, the Bethesdas, the Blizzards, the this, that. I was trying to find one where everyone was happy with how that company's been doing, and I couldn't find an answer.
CD Projekt Red.
CG Project Red hasn't released a whole lot, but those guys.
It's hard.
It's hard.
Yeah.
The fans of those genres hate their parent companies right now. They hate EA. They hate Epic. My God, the people who had loved other Epic games and then the Fortnite thing, people hate Epic for that. Blizzard's having many issues with many of their IPs over and over and over. So I try to tell people, calm down on the Intrepid hate right now, right?
Right.
They're doing as best they can. They're just starting out. They're a baby company.
They are. All right. Well, before we get off on that tangent, maybe that's something we bring back up in the post show, which happens directly after this on twitch.tv/Dungeon Crawler Network. So if you're interested in checking out the post show, show up live or support us over at patreon.com/Dungeon Crawler Network. Gain access to that. Anyway, moving on to the progression-based systems. We're talking about class progression now, guys. This one is going to be pretty interesting.
Yes.
Classes within Ashes of Creation. This baffles me. We were actually talking about this. We talked about the idea of them getting the MMO out before 2020, because that was what Steven had said. In all honesty, I don't think Steven's going to be able to pull that off because of delays and whatnot, and that's only to be expected. But someone brought this up. I think it was one of our community members, Knife Party, brought this up in our Discord and said, I can't imagine them balancing 64 classes before 2020. Even if they had everything else done, that alone is baffling to me.
Yep. I had that same thought until I asked Steven about that, and he gave me a bit more of an insight into how he's going to address balance when it comes to those. We can talk about that right now if you'd like.
Oh, I mean, yeah, let's do that.
So that was one of the big questions I approached Steven with. I think it was during a stream. I said, you've got 64 classes. How on earth are you even attempt to balance this? And what he said to me was, we don't in fact have 64 classes. We have 64 names, but in fact we have 8 classes. And the primary abilities of your character are derived from your main class. And what your secondary class does is change the flavor. Maybe a horizontal progression. We talked about those in previous streams. A horizontal flavor change to your primary class's abilities. You don't get, if you're a fighter and you pick a mage, you're not about to start casting fireballs.
Yeah.
You know what I
Hey,
mean?
this is a perfect
still a
time for
fighter.
me to throw a quote in here from Steven
Cool.
Sharif.
Yes, I like this. That's good.
You only get active skills from your primary class, and that active skill could look totally different after an augment gets applied. It really depends on what the augment is. Steven Sharif.
Now, looks totally
Yeah.
different or functions totally different.
An example he gave, even predating that, I think, was the charge and blink, basically, right? Where if you're a warrior and you pick an augment up from a mage, basically for the charge, it'll turn into something like a blink, which functions the same, but looks completely different, if you will.
And what we'll discover once we have access to these secondary classes is, do any of these augments provide utility? Do any of these augments provide a straight up benefit or boost or a better version of that primary ability? Or do these augments just provide flavor tweaks to the abilities?
Well, and from my notes here, I'm bringing this up because this is perfect. Each skill in a primary tree has a minimum of 4 augment choices from the secondary tree.
So if you're fighter mage,
That is crazy.
your charge ability will have 4 potential different options based off of you choosing mage or you choosing rogue or whatever.
I think it's even more than that. I think it'll have 4 period, a minimum of 4 different augment choices from the secondary, from a secondary tree. That's that's minimum of 4 for every secondary tree.
Oh, it's going to be so hard to make sure, like, if their design decision, their design philosophy is the secondary augments are not meant to give you power, but are meant to give you options, it's going to be so hard to prevent everything or something from providing more straight up power or being a straight up better version of that ability.
We do know it's not going to be possible to max all skill lines in a tree, and changing the augmentations of a skill line will require you to go to an NPC in a village, so you're not going to be able to do it
Mid-fight.
Mid-fight.
Boss fights.
But another note that they have in here is that active skills could look totally different after an augment gets applied. Let's talk about that a little bit. I'm really curious what your guys' thoughts are on the idea of an entire skill changing completely. Like, I know we often seen the only real, I guess, example we were ever given was the charge turning into a teleport. Is that what they're referring, or does the charge change away from a charge altogether?
So we'll use that charge example, and we'll talk about the balance and stuff. So in World of Warcraft, charge gave you a stun at the end of it, just a short 1-second stun. If it was going to be a blink version, because that would happen even faster, and that seems beneficial, would the stun go away to try and balance it? And I'm trying to think of other classes, other examples of combining classes where you would change. Like, how could a mage's fireball change if they took a rogue subclass?
Well,
I can't visualize that.
Here's my idea from a visualization, something I thought. So with a mage, you get just a straight teleport. It would probably remind me a lot like the blink. Maybe that would solve pathing issues. So like as a charge, it requires a straight line of sight.
Yeah.
Maybe a teleport ignores elevation. So like
Ignores the chest high wall thing like in the Battle Royale.
Yeah. What if you took a rogue one, you did like a shadow step where then you appeared behind the target and did a backstab?
True. Yep, that's possible.
Yeah.
Because it would still have the idea of, yes, it is a charge. It's a gap closer.
It's a gap closer. Yeah.
Yeah, but it augments the way that a rogue would do it, you know?
Can we just safely say that anyone that takes a cleric subclass, everything gets a heal? Just everything. Fireball gets a heal, small heal. Backstab, small heal. Charge, small heal.
I'm actually hoping that's the case because no, I'm serious. The class that I'm probably gonna end up playing is a fighter cleric, and the reason
It's like a paladin type. In a sense, right?
But the reason why I'm
Because
hoping
it's a sexplar.
the sexplar, yeah. For anyone who
That's
doesn't,
why.
anyone who doesn't know what that is, you need to go back and listen to our Tales of Tamriel show, because guess what? A sexplar works 60% of the time. Every time.
100%.
Anyway, I like the idea of the warrior priest from Warhammer. If you played Warhammer Online, because it was a healer, that sort of a healer. The only way they could heal is by generating holy power. The only way to generate holy power was to beat things in the head with a giant mace. So you're up front, and then all of your heals essentially were point blank area of effects around you. So you would beat on things till you generate enough holy power and then pop out a heal around you. So you were an upfront fighter, and I love that level of a DPS, but it's more of a support DPS.
Yeah,
so
you offer some support.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be a top DPS, but you have that little benefit of side healing or whatever the case may be. I'm hoping that's the case with Cleric.
Now, the min-maxers in us, which I imagine there are plenty in the podcast listening right now, there's going to be eventually figured out a best class subclass combination for your tank role, for your healer role, either your tank healer or your AoE healer, for your range DPS role, for your melee DPS role. They're going to exist, and they're going to shift based off of balances and patches over the course of time. They're not going to be able to avoid the min-maxers picking the best of the best, period. And it's just going to be a thing. But can they keep it within a ballpark where those of us who don't want to min-max, not me, can play what they want and still at least carry their own weight? That's the goal, and that's the big question. Can they do that?
I'm wondering if... I think it really depends on how many skills There really are. If it's really this many with this many options of, trees potentially that you can go to, there might not be. The only game that I have seen where that whole min-max thing never really rooted was Shadowbane, where they had just so many combinations and classes where figuring out what you wanted to do and how you wanted to build was a game in of itself.
So you just make it so complicated that they don't even bother.
Exactly. Right.
Well, when you have in this game, you're going to have more support, right?
Yes.
More than just the regular 4. You're going to have a build for each of those, say, 8 roles, right? So you have 8 roles, and then you have 8 classes and 8 secondary classes and skills, all that's built in. Unless you put together a spreadsheet, you're just never going to figure it out.
That's true.
And then also you have people who disagree with your math, and therefore it's just a constant war. It's great.
That's right. 'Cause
Now,
your math is always wrong.
and it's funny you mention that because I like to bring up the Elder Scrolls Online in the terms of the sheer amount of skills that are available, and then you have their augment system, which is what I feel like this is going to be a lot like. The problem with what ESO did was when they added their morphs, I don't think they went far enough. They only offered 2, and it essentially came down to whether or not you were stamina or magicka what you picked.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think
Most
this
of
is
them
gonna be
came
a
down to
better
that.
system.
Yeah. And Varkun just brought up a good point in chat, and that's you can also get the augments from non-class abilities that I completely forgot about. But yeah,
Interesting.
or sorry, from non-class augments, if that makes any sense. You can find the augments or quests
From
for
like
them.
the social systems and other things.
Yeah, or this profession or this or that.
Yeah.
I'm curious how situational the class progression will actually be, whether or not there is a best in slot. When we come down to actual straight damage or tanking, we already know what the best is going to be. The tank who goes tank is likely going to be, in terms of pure mitigation numbers, they've even said that.
Yeah, the rogue ranger
better
is probably
tank.
going to do more DPS than the rogue cleric or the rogue
Right.
bard.
But the rogue
right? That's-
rogue will do better than
rogue.
all of them in
So
terms
think
of
they're gonna
that
have
if you
to
double
offer
down, you're gonna-
something.
You think so?
Supposedly,
I think
yes.
they're going to offer something to make them
The double
wander
down.
away from the mage or the ranger.
Yeah, because if they just make the mage the best mage, black and white.
Yeah, but by doing that, you're also losing a lot of utility. It all depends on how important that utility is. In some games, like eventually what World of Warcraft became, you didn't need utility. There was no need for CC. In even PvP, there was a little bit more, but eventually it just became a nuke game, so that was what you did.
Yeah, they homogenized the buffs. So the unique buff the paladin used to offer was now being offered elsewhere by another class, and the unique thing that the shaman offered was offered elsewhere. This is much later in the development of the game. This is expansions down the road. But yeah, they homogenized their game like crazy. We're
I
not
don't-
going to have that to start here. We're going to have all these different classes, all these different abilities. It's going to be very fun to see.
And remember what they said off the bat in terms of balancing. They're not doing a 1-for-1 balance. They plan on doing the rock, paper, scissors to the point where it's
Aren't they offering a 1v1 arena? Didn't they mention that somewhere? A 1v1
I think-
competitive arena? Maybe not competitive, but an arena, an instanced arena 1v1 thing. I think. I
if
remember
they
reading
did that, the only thing I could think about is if they stripped out class kits. Like
But
they
then,
did
then
with-
what do you got? A battle royale?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, seriously, if they're not doing the 1v1, while some people do like it, and I enjoy 1v1s, the problem with that is when you have a 1v1, it completely highlights your deficiencies when it comes to
Yeah.
balancing.
If you're a cleric and you're going against a rogue 1v1, expect to get snuck on, backstab, stunned, and then just expect it.
Alpha, you look like you had a question. Or-
No. I was when you said 1v1. Some people love 1v1. I
Oh,
was like, yo,
gotcha.
right here.
Yeah, I love it too. Yeah, Alpha and
Yeah.
I are very, very similar there. All three of us are.
I mean, I love 1v1. In most cases, that's what I would prefer to fight. I loved doing duels, and I love the Guild Wars 2 structured battlegrounds because a lot of times it came down to a 1v1 fight because you were going to take a point by yourself and you were defending against one person. So it really came down to just you and them. Very rarely, if you start seeing multiple people, it's like, unless you're in a bunker build, you moved. But yeah, the way they decided they wanted to balance was more this group balance around archetypes having strengths and weaknesses. Maybe it won't be such a hard counter, but maybe it will. I'm kind of hoping it's more towards the soft counter because I really don't want to hit a point where because of a class I picked, there's another class that can just stomp me into the ground.
Yeah, to use an example from another game in Overwatch, except for the recent patch, there was a time where if you were a tracer with 150 HP and your opponents had a Brigitte, the support tank, you had to switch off that character. You had no choice because Brigitte, within one stun, could one-shot a tracer. It removed that character from the meta. So you don't want to see that in this game, where if you're a rogue and your opponent's playing a Dreadnought, which is a tank, blah, 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 and you know that they will absolutely counter you 100%. Do you want that kind of a hard counter, or do you not want that kind of a hard counter?
Right.
What do you think?
I don't want that level.
You do not want that.
I don't mind it
yeah.
if it comes to this is going to be tough, but I don't think it should ever hit a point where it's, oh, crap.
So the rogue should have a hard time against the tank, but it should not be impossible.
Oh, yeah. I think if you can outplay somebody, then by all means, it just should
That's
be.
what it comes down to skill. It comes down to skill at that point when they're that close. But I agree. It shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, I don't like hard counters because it really does. It enforces the idea of the meta, which eventually hits a point where you'll start seeing that going into it. And I can tell you this, I was actually, we were doing some guild interviews and stuff like that, and this came up in conversation. It's the only reason why I bring it up. We talked about PvP, and I said, I like PvP. I used to do WoW arenas and stuff like that. And I had a lot of fun. I had a duo partner who's my best friend. We worked well together. We probably could have got a lot higher. Problem was, we were 2 rep paladins. Once you got up to like the 2,500 arena,
I'm just trying to visualize that in my head. Oh my god.
Oh no, we did fairly good early on.
I bet you just pick a target and just try and kill it as fast as possible, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and we worked well together. We used our repentances, our hammers of justice. We knew how to CC, but eventually we hit the point where we were so out of meta.
Yeah.
We could not compete against like the Ice Mage Shaman, which I think was meta when we were
given equal skill at the higher levels of the game, given equal skill, the fact that you were off meta, you couldn't do anything.
Yeah, because there were classes that could literally lock it. The Ice Mage, for instance, could just lock us down because we had no gap closers. We had nothing to get closer. They would just kite us till we died. And that there was nothing we could do in most cases. Unless we
Sorry, go ahead, finish.
No, unless we got the drop on them and surprised them 100% that, we were done.
I don't think Ashes of Creation is going to have this issue because they're much more geared towards the Castle Siege type stuff and the guild versus guild kind of stuff and the big 40-man raids kind of stuff. So individual performance in a 40-man raid or a Castle Siege type situation or a Node Siege type situation is not going to be so integral. But yeah, you don't want to get to a point where you're doing your 8-man dungeon and you bring in that DPS, and he can't carry his weight. So you got to try and find that balance of the small scale and then the large scale where it matters less.
Yeah, you never want to have a point where you have an exceptional player that you go, sorry, we can't bring you, you're not meta.
Absolutely. You know your guildie is a phenomenally skilled player. He knows the game inside and out, but because he refuses to get off this subclass combination, you can't bring him. You don't want that. That's terrible.
Yeah.
It feels so bad.
I do not like that. Absolutely.
No.
Next quote we have from Steven. All these quotes came from the live streams, and I will have links for people who are interested in checking these out. This is again a quote from Steven Sharif. Key for the augment system is that these augments are meant to demonstrate the core identity of the secondary class type you've chosen. So if from the 8 archetypes, whatever you chose as your secondary, you're going to receive a choice of augments that relate to some core ideal of that class. You like a tank is all about controlling the battlefield. Is about surviving. The mage is about dealing damage and elements and abilities in AoE. The rogue is going to be about stealth and critical damage. Yep. These augments are going to play towards those identities.
How many classes are going to choose rogue as the secondary class in open world stuff to allow for stealth and the use of stealth?
How many are going to choose it in PvE because of high crit? Because in most cases, crit reigns king.
Crit is powerful in MMOs. Stealth is powerful in player versus player. Like, how do they incentivize you to choose the Bard subclass?
Right.
You know what I mean? I want to be a singing fighter just for fun. I want to try it one time. Like, how are you going to make that enough to overpower the ability of stealth, the ability of using the mage's teleport to close a gap for any melee class. Maybe the ability of self-healing from a cleric is very powerful. How are you gonna? We haven't even talked about the summoning class. Like,
well, if it's group based, right, and the bard is all about group. I mean, Steven said
buffs.
repeatedly that that bards are going to be awesome in this game and something that you want to play, right? Because he's well aware of the stigma that it's just buff factories or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So whatever that they're bringing,
Mana
to the table-
batteries.
mana batteries, exactly. So whatever they're bringing to the table, if they're a group, a primarily group focused class, ideally it would be something that would augment your group as you use on skill. So for example, maybe your whole group gets a damage buff, right? Every time you hit, or your whole group gets X every time you hit. There are a lot of things that I can kind of think of off the top of my head that you could do.
And maybe that's how the meta shifts. It's not meta period, it's meta for your group.
Right.
Which is what I'm hoping to see more of. If you have people who you have a tank, he's great, but because he's all mitigation, he has no magic or whatever, you need to have something that augments his weakness in magic. I would love to see that come into play.
Here's a question about gameplay that I would love answered. Maybe they don't have an answer yet. We talked about bards. We talked about buffs. We talked about castle siege and node siege and large scale stuff. What happens when a whole bunch of bards in your group are giving different buffs? One singing this song, one singing this song, one singing. What happens when we start stacking all of this? Like, how far does this go? How big does this go? How many buffs can they do at once? How many buffs can you have in your character at once? Maybe these fine details aren't known yet, but that's how are they going to balance that in large scale stuff?
And maybe that's where support reigns king. You may be giving up pure damage or pure mitigation, but the amount of support buffs you have grows exponentially because of that.
Maybe if you can choose bard subclasses and they can provide some of these buffs within a guild of 40 people in a raid, you may go, somebody needs to have the subclass of this bard and this one to give those buffs.
Yeah. Do you guys remember the Enchanter from EverQuest?
I played Dark Age of Camelot. I skipped EverQuest.
Oh, okay. So the Enchanter in EverQuest was really a class that was a support class, but it was a support class that allowed you to mesmerize and control the battlefield in different ways or another. And the description for the Bard that Stephen had released was Bards create their they're considered a support class. Bards create their spells through songs, dance, stories, and music. With powerful words, they can create intense and devastating nightmares on their enemies, or even convince them to become an ally. Bards are an inspiration to their team. So it's not just buffs; it's also crowd control for groups, and that is invaluable in definitely PvP. But add that to PvE, and
I know we had this discussion from a few people in our guild. They were talking about, I like playing tanks, but tanks normally get the shaft when it comes to PvP. I'm like, not with these ones. If they're about aerial denial,
if you're able to put up walls and stuff and slow down people into space or cause an earthquake to make people fall down. Or
we've already seen that with the what was the bulwark, even though it sucked in Battle Royale. If you could literally find a gap, you can prevent people from coming into a building.
Yep.
Oh, never mind for prevent people from coming into building. Let them come.
Trap them in.
Like Mage in Overwatch. You ice wall off, you split up a group in half,
exactly.
and you take out half the group.
Exactly. And you've just become the most, powerful guy in your group by splitting up their group.
Well, that's kind of like what was the show, the Last Kingdom, when they were doing the shield walls. They'd open the wall long enough to let like two people through, close the wall again, and then those guys were killed by the people in the back who just stabbed them down. I love that idea. Let just a handful through, block the wall, kill them off. Guess what? That's it.
What's going to stop not stop, I think to hinder the whole meta situation is you're going to have guilds when they're getting ready for sieges. They're going to go, well, we need to have this, and you figure out who is going to fit those categories, right? Who's going to be this, who's going to be that, and you're going to need a significant amount of bards and clerics and all different classes. So there's going to be different groups. They'll behave differently based on their makeup.
Yeah.
And we also talked about how Castle Siege will have objectives in it. The castles and the nodes will have objectives in it. And you may want to send in a crack squad of 8 people who are stealthy types to get in there and do that. And you're going to want to have your range classes protecting your back line and firing into the front line. You'll need your tanks in the front line. So you're right. Seeing these guild compositions for all that is going to be very fascinating.
And here's the thing, though. We do already know, and we have one more quote from Steven to hit up. But I want to bring this up. They did mention that switching a subclass wasn't going to be easy. Like
Was or was not?
Was not.
Hmm.
So I don't think this is something that you're going to be able to choose quickly. Like
You can't just get back to town,
subclass?
talk to the dude, and go switch.
what happens if it completely resets your progression? So let's say let's say it goes up to level 10. You have to level it up to 10. You got a fighter cleric, and then I go, wow, I really wish I was fighter mage. Go back, I could talk to the guy. You're now level 1 mage, second class. Oh, cried. And now you have to level that back up again.
This is going to be some forward thinking you're going to need to do as a guild and a group, right? As you bring in recruits, you say, okay, we've got so many of these. We need you to stick to this line. And then we need you to stick to this line, and you back up backups, right? So that you have those people. And it's gonna be some forward thinking, more than just let's jump into it right now. It's gonna be we have a siege in 2 weeks. We need to, figure these things out.
Final quote from Steven. The idea behind the system is that you're kind of skirting the line through these augmentations of your role. We have a traditional Holy Trinity that presents in class designs for MMOs, and it's often that these these either are not deviated at all or completely deviated from entirely. The augment is to kind of offer a balance between where you still maintain the semblance of the Trinity system, while offering the opportunity to customize your play experience towards one of the other angles in the triangle.
So let's say your guild of 40 invests heavily in healing subclasses to take the weight off of your primary healers, so you can run less primary healers. Or if your guild has a lot of tank subclasses so that your primary tanks are needed less, they can balance those numbers. Is that what they're trying to talk about? Giving you the opportunity to shift the makeup of your group in case you don't have enough healers, you don't have enough DPS, you don't have enough tanks. You can kind of shift the secondaries to mold this group as you see fit based off of your guild's composition.
That's why you're going to work with alliances too, right? You're going to want to make sure you're allied or allies with those who can support you as you need to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is one of the more interesting ways of looking at it. The fact that your class fits on one role, but the idea is that you can kind of mess around with making yourself. If you double down, guess what? You're going DPS. Enjoy. And maybe that double down isn't just double downing on a specific role like rogue, but rogue ranger. Yeah. So maybe it won't affect as much. It just more or less plays of you're 80% DPS, 20% healer, or 20% tank.
Yeah, so that's a huge question. You gave percentages. How much of a percentage is it going to be?
Oh, yeah.
How much is the secondary going to allow you to have self-healing or allow you to adopt into the mage? What's the percentage?
And given that the augments don't add new skills, it can't be a 50-50. Because it's not like you pick cleric and all of a sudden I have a cleric heal. I don't.
Yeah, like I said, if you're a fighter, you pick mage, you don't get fireball.
No.
You're just not going to start slinging fireballs. That's not how it goes. You might have a fiery melee attack, but you're not shooting laser beams from your fingers.
But even that fiery melee attack may only be 1/10 of the damage of a fireball, if that.
Yeah, it might just add a bit of fire damage or something.
And this comes down to balancing at that point. But yeah, if you're shifting, the main thing is it's definitely not a 50-50 because you do not gain skills from the secondary class. I know that still comes up quite a bit from people going, well, I'm going to be a mage that casts fire or a fighter that casts fireball.
Yeah.
No. If you take a subclass, great, but you are not gaining abilities. You're still going to have your 5 fighter abilities. They just change. You're not going to gain 10 abilities. You're not going to have your 5 fighter and your 5 Mage. And again, I don't know how many skills they have. I'm just doing
We don't.
it for
Yeah, we don't have an
example.
answer for that. How many skills they're giving us?
Yeah. This is just an example. If you only had 5, you don't get 10 because you now have a mage, It just doubles down. Thoughts?
And I know I
It's gotta be
keep
interesting.
cycling back to this stealth thing. I want to know if any class takes the rogue subclass, are they all going to get stealth? Are some of them going to get stealth? Are they going to get different versions of stealth?
Yeah, I think that's yet to be seen.
I'm curious.
Yeah, it's guessing based on the name, right?
Yeah,
Just looking
it's
at
not
the
enough
name,
information.
the Bard Rogue, I don't think Trickster would. But
No.
again, we're just guessing.
Hmm.
Well, that's what theory crafting is for us at this point. So
That's right. We're Jay, flip a coin.
it's fun to talk about because I will say this, nothing Intrepid is doing is 100% new and never seen on the Earth before.
Absolutely.
And I mean, honestly,
They're
that
having
goes...
the same discussions. They're having the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
set of discussions. And they should be over and over and over again. How do we look at all this? You can mathematically balance all these out, but then you step outside and say, okay, let's take
In
the math
practice.
out of it. Let's put some defaults in. It's me interesting.
What if they do it like they take the class, the essence of the class that is? So let me try and explain it this way. If you select a tank mage combo, for example, what are the aspects of a mage? If I was to ask you guys, from
Elements.
what we know,
Elements,
elements.
Mm-hmm.
caster.
Maybe some crowd
Low
control,
armor.
maybe some AoE.
Yeah. So
Light armor.
let's say if you select then a tank and a mage, what could happen is it could take on the defensive capabilities of the mage as well too, right?
Since you're a tank
Oh,
primary, right?
Exactly. So maybe your shield wall does a mirror image and creates
Mm.
2 copies of you as well, or something like that. Whereas if a rogue selected it, maybe the rogue takes the damage aspect of the mage, or something like that, and their backstack
Interesting.
becomes a fireball. Or they absorb some of the utility and the movement of the mage, right?
And
Sorry,
to
go ahead.
actually support your argument in this case, I know one of the examples they actually brought up was the summoner. They said a summoner fighter would actually summon magical weapons. So their summons became essentially magical swords that
That is
float
cool.
around.
Yeah.
So it
Interesting.
adapts part of what it is, but still doesn't change. It gives a flavor, but doesn't change the
Yeah.
core aspect. Maybe the summoned weapons are more fire and forget, or maybe it's like the Daedric summoned weapons in Skyrim.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
true.
yeah.
Right?
You use them for summon this magic sword that does a lot of damage, but only has 2 swings before you have to redo it, or it breaks or whatever immediately.
Yeah.
So that secondary chosen is definitely going to change based off the primary all the way around those 8 classes. The mage secondary is going to be very different for a fighter. It's going to be very different for a rogue. It's going to be very different for a cleric. Because like you said, it's the primary that decides the flavor and the function of... Sorry, the primary decides the function of a class. And the secondary changes the flavor.
There you go. All right, guys, that is the end of our class discussion. Guys, that was a lot of fun. I'm loving these progression ones, and we've got a lot more to talk about in the coming weeks, barring any news. But of course, before we end the show, I always got to say, if you are watching us live on twitch.tv/Dungeon Crawl Network, make sure you stick around for the post show that happens immediately after this one ends. It's a good time. We interact with our chat room, of course, and we kind of get off tangent sometimes. It's a good time overall. But I definitely want to thank my amazing co-host, Stormlord of Digital Piper Studios. Thank you so much for being on the show. Again, Alpha Soul, you can follow him at Alpha Soul, the Alpha Soul. Check him out on his Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, all those fun places. Find the links in the description below. And of course, Crowjack, everywhere you can find Crowjack, because he just multiplies all the time. It's kind of crazy. Indeed. And of course, follow me. Links in the description below. Pretty awesome. Of course, you can follow everything we do over at DungeonCrawlerNetwork.com. There you can find links to all of our social media, including Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Be sure to check out our Patreon program at patreon.com/DungeonCrawlerNetwork. If you want to help support the show, you can do that by also leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes so people know that we are a real podcast, that we say real words. Sometimes they matter. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of From the Ashes, and we will see you next time. See you later, everybody. Woo.